The Galactic Empire had ruled the known universe for 3,000 years, and in all that time they had never encountered a species quite like humans. Most civilizations, when faced with the Empire's overwhelming military might, would either submit immediately or negotiate terms of surrender. Humans, however, had done something completely unprecedented when they joined the galactic community 50 years ago. They had shrugged. Not the kind of shrug that says whatever, but the kind that says, sure, we'll play along with your little space government thing, but don't expect us to be impressed. This attitude had earned humanity a reputation throughout the galaxy as the adorable space puppies, who were too naive to understand how things really worked. Admiral Vex Thor, a 7-foot-tall lizard person with more decorative medals than actual military experience, found this human attitude particularly amusing. He had been stationed at the Kepler Junction trading post for the past 5 years, collecting bribes and generally abusing his authority over the various merchant vessels that passed through. Enter Captain Jake Morrison, a 35-year-old cargo hauler from Detroit who had the unfortunate combination of a quick wit and absolutely zero filter. Jake had been running supplies between Earth colonies for the past decade, and he had developed a healthy disrespect for authority figures who took themselves too seriously. "State your business, human," Admiral Vex Thor demanded as Jake's ship, the Reasonable Doubt, docked at the station. "Just dropping off some medical supplies to the Proxima colony," Jake replied, not bothering to use the formal address protocols that the Empire demanded. "Unless you want to inspect my cargo of bandages and aspirin." The Admiral's scales rippled with indignation. "You will address me as your Imperial Excellence or face the consequences." Jake looked at the Admiral's uniform, which was indeed covered in so much gold braid and sparkling decorations that it looked like a Las Vegas showgirl outfit. "Listen, your sparkly pajamas. I've got a delivery schedule to keep." The bridge fell silent. Even the other Imperial officers stopped breathing. In 3,000 years of galactic history, no one had ever insulted an Imperial Admiral's uniform. It simply wasn't done. "Execute him," Admiral Vex Thor said calmly. And just like that, Captain Jake Morrison became the first human to be killed by the Galactic Empire. The Admiral's personal guards vaporized Jake on the spot, then proceeded to file the incident report as minor disciplinary action against unruly merchant. The news reached Earth through standard diplomatic channels buried on page 7 of the incident report between a noise complaint and a request for more decorative medals. The Empire treated it as such a minor footnote that they didn't even bother to inform the human embassy directly. President Maria Santos was enjoying her morning coffee and reading the daily briefings when she reached page 7 of the Imperial Incident Report. She read the line once, then twice, then slowly set down her coffee cup. "What?" she shouted so loudly that her security detail burst through the door, assuming she was under attack. "Mom, is everything all right?" asked Agent Peterson, his hand on his weapon. "They killed Jake Morrison," she said, her voice deadly quiet. "They killed him for calling their uniforms sparkly pajamas." Within 30 minutes, President Santos had called an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. The hastily assembled group included Defense Secretary Bull McKenzie, a former drill sergeant who had somehow managed to become a politician without losing his ability to intimidate people, and General Patricia Patty Steele, humanity's top military strategist who had earned her reputation by being absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting human interests. "Let me get this straight," Bull McKenzie said, reading the report for the 3rd time. "They executed one of our citizens for making a joke about their uniforms?" "That's correct, Mr. Secretary," confirmed Admiral Lisa Park, the head of Earth's small but efficient space navy. "And they classified it as a minor disciplinary action?" "Also correct." Bull McKenzie's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. "Those arrogant, self-important, lizard-wearing disco balls think they can just murder our people and file it under miscellaneous paperwork." "Apparently so," General Steele said with a smile that would have made a shark nervous. "But I have a solution." "What's that?" President Santos asked. We declare war. The room fell silent. Ambassador Richardson, the Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Council, nearly choked on his water. You can't be serious. They have a fleet of 10,000 ships. We have maybe 300. Numbers don't matter when you're fighting for the right reasons, General Steele replied. And I can't think of a better reason than avenging Jake Morrison. President Santos considered this for exactly 10 seconds. Do it. Ambassador Richardson tried to intervene. Madam President, surely we can negotiate some kind of compensation. The Empire has standard protocols for these situations. As if on cue, the door opened and Ambassador Klicknar, the Empire's representative to Earth, waddled in carrying an ornate fruit basket. Greetings, President Santos. I have come to offer the Empire's sincerest apologies for the unfortunate incident with your citizen. Please accept this traditional gesture of goodwill. The room stared at the fruit basket in stunned silence. You brought us fruit, President Santos said slowly. The finest selection from across the galaxy, Klicknar replied proudly. And of course the Empire is prepared to offer monetary compensation for your loss. Shall we say 10,000 credits? General Steele stood up. 10,000 credits? That's what you think a human life is worth? Well, perhaps 15,000, Klicknar said, completely missing the point. But that's quite generous for a minor incident. President Santos picked up the fruit basket and handed it back to the ambassador. Ambassador Klicknar, please deliver this message to your emperor. As of right now, Earth is officially at war with the Galactic Empire. We will accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. Klicknar's tentacles quivered with confusion. But this is highly irregular. Species don't declare war over single individuals. Well, President Santos said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, I guess you're about to learn that humans are highly irregular. The news of Earth's declaration of war spread through the galaxy faster than a cosmic ray burst. The reaction was uniform across all civilized species. Laughter. Supreme Commander Zal Neth, the Empire's highest military authority, was in the middle of his afternoon meditation when his aide burst into his chambers with the news. Sir, the humans have declared war on us. Zal Neth opened one eye. I'm sorry, what? The humans, sir. They've officially declared war on the Empire. Zal Neth opened both eyes and sat up. The space puppies. Are you certain? Yes, sir. They're demanding unconditional surrender. Zal Neth began to laugh. It started as a chuckle, then built into a full belly laugh that echoed through his chambers. Unconditional surrender? They have 300 ships, and we have 10,000. What exactly do they think they're going to do? I'm not sure, sir, but they seem quite serious about it. Oh, this is delicious, Zal Neth said, wiping tears from his eyes. Alert the Galactic Council. I want everyone to see this. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was standing room only. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had gathered to witness what was being called the Great Human Tantrum. The Empire calls this session to order, announced Speaker Vorthake, a being so ancient that his species had forgotten what planet they originally came from. We are here to address the humans' declaration of war. The chamber erupted in laughter. The Altarians were chittering so hard they fell off their perches. The Centaurians were making what passed for snorting sounds among their species. Even the normally stoic vegan representatives were visibly amused. I'll take bets, announced Ambassador Grexnell from the Sirius system. How long before the humans surrender? I say 3 days. 2 days, countered the Rigelian representative. You're all optimists, laughed the delegate from Alpha Centauri. I give them 18 hours. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was doing what humans do best when faced with overwhelming odds. They got creative, they got angry, and they got organized with terrifying efficiency. General Steele had instituted what she called the Morrison Protocol, a total war doctrine that threw out every rule of civilized warfare that the galaxy had spent millennia developing. If the Empire wanted to play hardball, humanity would show them what hardball really looked like. "We're not going to fight them the way they expect," she explained to the assembled military commanders. "They expect honorable combat, predetermined rules of engagement, and formal declarations before each battle. We're going to give them something they've never seen before: human warfare." Commander Rex Bulldog Harrison, a stocky ex-Marine who had earned his nickname by being too stubborn to know when to quit, raised his hand. "What exactly does that mean, General?" "It means we fight dirty, we fight angry, and we fight to win," Steele replied. "The Empire has never faced an opponent that considers survival more important than honor. They're about to learn why humans conquered their own planet before they ever left it." The human fleet that assembled at the edge of the solar system was small but loaded with surprises. Every ship had been retrofitted with weapons that the Empire had never seen before, tactics that violated every treaty the galaxy had ever signed, and crews that had been trained in a type of warfare that most civilized species had forgotten existed. "Remember," Bulldog Harrison addressed his fleet over the comm system, "we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for Jake Morrison, a man who died because he had the courage to call sparkly pajamas what they are. Let's show these overgrown lizards what happens when you mess with humanity." The Empire, meanwhile, was treating the entire situation as entertainment. Supreme Commander Zal Neth had dispatched a token force of 50 ships to discipline the unruly humans and had even arranged for the battle to be broadcast live across the galaxy as a form of comedy programming. "This should be amusing," he told his officers. "I almost feel bad for the poor creatures. They have no idea what they're about to face." He was right about one thing. Someone was about to learn what they were facing, but it wasn't going to be humanity. The human fleet arrived at the Imperial border with all the subtlety of a brick through a window. Most civilized species announced their arrival with formal communications, requests for parley, and detailed explanations of their intentions. The humans announced their arrival by immediately opening fire on the nearest Imperial patrol. "What are they doing?" demanded Captain Nexval, commander of the Imperial Border Patrol. "They didn't even hail us first." "Sir, they're targeting our communication arrays," reported his tactical officer. "But that's against the rules of civilized warfare. You're supposed to disable weapons first, then communications." "I don't think they've read the rules, sir." The humans hadn't just failed to read the rules, they had actively decided to ignore them. Commander Harrison's First Strike Fleet had been given explicit orders to fight like humans, not like civilized galactic citizens. "Target their pretty lights first," Bulldog ordered over the comm. "If they want to dress like Christmas trees, let's see how they like being unplugged." The Imperial fleet found itself in the unprecedented position of facing an enemy that didn't follow any of the accepted protocols. Human ships moved in erratic patterns that made no tactical sense according to Imperial doctrine. They targeted systems that civilized species considered off limits. Worst of all, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. "This is Captain Morrison speaking," came a voice over the Imperial communication system. Every human ship had been equipped with psychological warfare protocols that included broadcasting messages designed to unnerve enemy forces. "Oh wait, that's right. Captain Morrison can't speak because your admiral turned him into space dust. This is Commander Harrison, and I'm here to return the favor." "Sir, they're jamming our distress signals," reported the Imperial tactical officer. "They can't do that. It's against the Galactic Geneva Convention." "I don't think they care, sir." The humans had brought something to the battle that the Empire had never encountered before: absolute, uncompromising fury. Every shot they fired was aimed with deadly precision. Every maneuver they made was calculated to cause maximum damage. They fought like a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing each other and had only recently turned their attention to aliens. "Sir, they're playing some kind of audio transmission," the Imperial Communications Officer reported. Put it through. The bridge of the Imperial flagship was suddenly filled with what humans called death metal. The combination of screaming vocals, aggressive guitar riffs, and pounding drums was designed to be intimidating to human enemies. Its effect on the delicate sensibilities of civilized alien species was devastating. "Turn it off," Captain Nexval screamed, covering his auditory organs. "I can't, sir. They've overridden our communications system." The psychological warfare was working exactly as intended. The Imperial fleet found itself facing not just superior tactics, but an enemy that seemed to have no concept of civilized behavior. They were fighting monsters and they were losing. "Request immediate reinforcements," Captain Nexval ordered. "Sir, they've jammed our long-range communications." "Then send a courier ship." "They've destroyed our courier ships, sir, and our supply ships, and our repair ships. And, sir, they've destroyed everything except the command vessels." The battle was over in less than 2 hours. The Imperial fleet, which had expected to be dealing with naive space puppies, found themselves completely outmaneuvered by a species that treated warfare like a science and seemed to have no concept of mercy. "This is Commander Harrison to any surviving Imperial vessels," came the broadcast. "You have exactly 10 minutes to surrender, or we'll demonstrate what humans call aggressive negotiations. Your choice." The survivors surrendered in 9 minutes. The destruction of the Imperial Border Patrol sent shockwaves through the galaxy that reached all the way to the Imperial capital. Supreme Commander Zal Neth, who had been planning to use the battle footage as comedy entertainment, found himself staring at casualty reports that made no sense. 50 ships, he said slowly. "They destroyed 50 of our ships." "Yes, sir." With minimal losses to their own fleet. 3 human ships reported minor damage, sir. And they did this in less than 2 hours. 1 hour and 47 minutes to be precise. Zal Neth crumpled the report in his hands. "How is this possible? They're supposed to be harmless merchants and explorers." "It appears we may have misjudged them, sir." The Supreme Commander's aide was demonstrating the gift for understatement that had made him so valuable in his current position. Across the galaxy, the other species were beginning to realize that their adorable space puppies had somehow turned into apex predators. "Deploy the 5th Fleet," Zal Neth ordered. 500 ships should be more than enough to handle this situation. It wasn't. The human fleet had grown to nearly 1,000 vessels as Earth's entire merchant marine was converted to military use. Cargo ships became troop transports. Passenger liners became command vessels. Even the luxury cruise ships that ferried wealthy humans between colonies were now bristling with weapons and carrying crews that had been trained in the finer points of space combat. General Steele had implemented what she called total war protocols. Every human ship in space was now part of the war effort. Every human colony was now a military base. Every human citizen was now a potential soldier. "The Empire thinks they can intimidate us with numbers," she announced during a galaxy-wide broadcast. "They're about to learn that humans don't count ships, we count victories." The 5th Fleet met the human forces at the Vega system, expecting to overwhelm them with superior numbers and firepower. Instead, they found themselves facing tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. The humans had deployed something called minefields, which were apparently explosive devices that were considered unsporting by galactic standards. They used kamikaze attacks, where individual ships would deliberately crash into enemy vessels. Most disturbing of all, they had begun using biological warfare in the form of captured Earth animals that were apparently trained to attack enemy boarding parties. "Sir, they've released some kind of creatures on Deck 7, reported the Imperial boarding team leader. "What kind of creatures?" "They appear to be small, 4-legged mammals with sharp teeth and an aggressive disposition." "You're being defeated by pets." "Sir, these aren't pets. These are weapons. They're coordinated, they're vicious, and they seem to be working with the human crew. The Empire was discovering that humans had spent 10,000 years domesticating the most dangerous predators on their planet and training them to work as partners. The concept of war dogs was completely alien to species that had evolved beyond such primitive partnerships. Supreme Commander Zal Neth watched in horror as his reports flooded in. Human forces were systematically destroying Imperial outposts throughout the Outer Rim. They weren't just winning battles, they were completely dismantling the Empire's infrastructure with ruthless efficiency. "They're not fighting like civilized beings," he told his war council. "They're fighting like barbarians." "Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiating," suggested Admiral Korthan. "Negotiating? We have the largest fleet in galactic history." "Sir, they've destroyed 3,000 of our ships in the past month." "Then we'll build more." "Sir, they've also destroyed our shipyards and our supply lines and our communication networks. And sir, they've begun targeting our civilian infrastructure." This was the moment when the Empire finally understood what they were facing. Humans didn't just fight armies, they fought entire civilizations. They didn't just win battles, they won wars. And they had decided that the Galactic Empire needed to be removed from existence. "What do they want?" Zal Neth asked desperately. "Unconditional surrender, sir. Just like they said from the beginning." "And if we refuse?" "Based on their current trajectory, sir, I estimate they'll reach the Imperial capital within 6 months." The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the species they had considered harmless pets systematically dismantled the greatest military power in known history. The humans weren't just winning, they were making it look easy. The war ended not with a grand final battle, but with a simple communication from Earth that reached the Imperial capital on a Tuesday morning. Supreme Commander Zal Neth was having breakfast when his aide brought him the message. "Sir, the humans have sent another communique." "What do they want now?" "They're offering terms for surrender." Zal Neth nearly choked on his breakfast. "They're offering U.S. terms?" "Yes, sir. They've surrounded the Imperial capital with their entire fleet. They're demanding that you personally surrender to President Santos within 24 hours, or they'll demonstrate what they call planetary renovation techniques." Through his office window, Zal Neth could see the human fleet. Nearly 2,000 ships hung in space around the Imperial homeworld like a swarm of angry hornets. They had arrived without warning, bypassed every defensive system the Empire had, and were now patiently waiting for his response. "What exactly are planetary renovation techniques?" he asked. "I'm not sure, sir, but they've included a demonstration video." The video showed what the humans had done to the Imperial fortress world of Kepler Prime. Where once there had been a heavily defended military installation, there was now a crater that could be seen from orbit. The humans had simply erased it from existence. "Get me President Santos," Zal Neth said quietly. The surrender ceremony was broadcast live across the galaxy. Supreme Commander Zal Neth, the most powerful military leader in known history, stood before President Santos and formally surrendered the entire Galactic Empire to humanity. "I hereby declare the unconditional surrender of the Galactic Empire," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We yield all military assets, territorial claims, and governmental authority to the human government." President Santos accepted the surrender with a speech that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "The Galactic Empire made a simple mistake," she said. "They thought they could murder a human being and face no consequences. Today they learned about the Jake Morrison doctrine. When you kill one human, you face all of humanity. When you threaten human lives, you threaten human civilization. And when you threaten human civilization, you discover why we're the only species that conquered our own planet before we left it." The new galactic treaty was signed aboard the human flagship Reasonable Doubt, which had been renamed in honor of Captain Morrison's ship. The document established humanity as the dominant species in the galaxy and instituted new rules of conduct that were designed to prevent future incidents. The Empire's former territories were reorganized into the Human Galactic Federation, with Earth as the capital and President Santos as the first Supreme Chancellor. The other species were given representation in the new government, but everyone understood who was really in charge. The transformation of galactic society was swift and complete. Where once the Empire had ruled through fear and intimidation, humanity governed through what they called enlightened pragmatism. Species that cooperated were rewarded. Species that caused trouble were dealt with efficiently and permanently. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The adorable space puppies were now recognized as the most dangerous predators in known space. Other species went out of their way to avoid offending humans, and the phrase "remember Jake Morrison" became a common warning throughout the galaxy. The irony was not lost on anyone that the Empire's casual execution of a single human cargo hauler had resulted in the complete destruction of the oldest civilization in galactic history. Jake Morrison's memorial statue was erected on the former imperial capital, now renamed Morrison Station, with an inscription that became famous throughout the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison, he called them sparkly pajamas, and humanity called them to account. The statue became a tourist attraction, visited by millions of beings from across the galaxy who came to pay their respects to the man whose death had changed the course of galactic history. Tour guides would always end their presentations with the same warning: remember, when you deal with humans, you're not just dealing with individuals. You're dealing with a species that considers the death of one to be an attack on all. And in the end, that was the most important lesson the galaxy learned from the Jake Morrison incident. Humans don't just hold grudges, they hold civilizations accountable for them.